Okay. Are we ready? You ready? You ready? Are you ready for this? Oh yeah. This is what we're doing. Yeah. All right, guys. So we're gonna start. First off, I'd like to ask: did everybody like the bash crawl thing yesterday? If you didn't like it, raise your hand. If you did not like it, really? Okay, sick. All right. It's new this year, so I'm like pretty happy about it. Wait, yeah. All right, raise your hands. Only Kid can see now.
Nice, trust me. Okay, we're good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure everyone raised their hand. So today we're gonna get into a little bit more about like what Linux is and how the file system works, and then we'll cover some more advanced commands, and then I think probably the last 45 minutes, hopefully, we'll get into the bandit challenges. I'll walk through the first two with you guys to show you how like they go, and then we'll see, and then I'll let you guys work on them on your own. I did read the feedback already, so somebody said more interactive stuff. The interactive stuff will come, I promise, but it's hard to do interactive right now when people don't know too much information. And then somebody had feedback about a event to meet other people on the team. Our ops is working on that, so we'll see. And we have a fun game officer. That's Jack, so he hopefully has funs and games. All right, so we'll get into like basically a little bit more about Linux. So in Linux, it's called the Linux file system, right? So when we talk about Linux, everything is a file. Even a directory is a file. It's just like a weird ass file.
Even the peripherals, like
even peripherals, yeah. So like
nice.
So like your mouse, your keyboard,
Random
like
number generators.
random. No. Well, okay.
Yes.
I know what you're talking about, but no. Like they are all stored in like a file somewhere on the computer, and they have either settings or like configuration or information about that system within the file. So like in that file. So it's like super important for Linux because everything is like a file. It's like you can then edit everything and tamper with things and whatnot. And it's really important to how Linux works in the first place. But everything starts from the /, which is similar to the C:/ in Windows. So is everybody familiar with that? Right. So we can, if we bring up a terminal, we can actually look at that. Or not. Okay. Yeah. So, right, we were talking about how the tilde is the home folder, right? Which is like the same as a home folder in Windows. So if we ls, we have all the same things except for a couple other things. But if we go to cd/, this is like the C:/. This is what is called the root of the file system, right? So there is nothing beyond this point. If I try to, who remembers how to go back, like up a directory?
cd.
Sick. Okay. So cd. If I try to cd. You can see right here, this does not change. This is the highest you can go in the file system. And in here are like a bunch of crazy different things that aren't too important right now, but some of them are. So bin holds all like executable tools. They hold like the actual code that runs like specific tools. So like ls, the code that runs ls is stored in bin. Okay. Things like mount is where like mounted drives or CDs are stored. Lib stores like libraries that are used for different executables to run. So yeah, that's basically about it that you need to know right now. Oh, no, Etsy. So Etsy stores like configuration files for different things in the system. But they are system-wide configuration files. So they're configuration files that affect like every account and every user on that system. And then home is where all the home accounts, or is where all the accounts for every user are stored. So if I cd into home and I ls, we can see the local user for this box. And then if we go into here, why did it do that? If we go into here, I can actually see every single user on the domain as well and all their home folders. and then I can go into my home folder, and I'm back to tilde, which is the home folder for me. Anybody have any questions on that? No, that makes sense. No one's confused? No? Okay. Okay, do you have anything to add?
Web is where devices are, so you'll see
Mice, keyboards.
like hardware stuff. USBs should.
USBs are in there.
Yeah, USBs go to dev, and then you can mount drives in the /mn to your mount directory. So that's not something you need to know for a while, but
It's neat.
yeah, like bin and sbin are places where you'll see programs or executables stored. Bin standing for binary, so bin is like normal programs, sbin is system binaries. So some types of programs will be in sbin, and others like that aren't special are going to just be in bin. Yeah.
Okay. So after the file system, it's important to talk about networks because that's the main way that we're going to interact with basically any challenge and how we're going to interact with Bandit. So a basic network itself is what everybody's used to. Right, we have the internet, and you can't access the internet if you're not connected to the internet. Right, everybody gets that idea. Same thing is here. We can't access certain things on our domain unless we're connected to our Wi-Fi. So those are each different types of networks that are set up different ways. And so who's in Plebe Cyber? Are most of the plebes in Plebe Cyber? Okay, sick. That's good. So right, each computer is assigned an IP address, which it's identifying number of where traffic should get sent to, right? So for this box, I could look up the IP address of it. I mean, I know it off the top of my head because it's static, but whatever. If I do IPA, I'll just do config. And I can see oh boy, there's so many things. I can see the IP address for this is 192.168.1.110. So each www.google.com has an IP address that you're supposed to reach out to, right? And so this is how networks actually communicate across each other, is they connect through their IP addresses at a very high level understanding of this. So along with an IP number, you also need a port number, which helps to tell the computer where to send that information to, right? So what kind of service to send it to. So it's not on here, but web applications, right? So anything that's HTTP is on port 80. So it tells the computer, hey, send this traffic or this message from another computer to the internet, to the web browser on your computer. And then HTTPS, which is just HTTP but secure, is on port 443. So it tells the computer to send it securely instead. Something that we'll be using for Bandit is called SSH, which is a secure shell, which allows you to connect to a different computer that has SSH open and have a terminal on that computer, okay? And that's on port 22. So that's going to be important for when we do our Bandit challenges, and we'll see how it does it. You can also basically reassign SSH to any other port that you want it to, as long as you specify that the SSH traffic should go through there. And then the last thing for networks, the big overarching view of it is a packet. So a packet is just a group, is just data that's being sent over the network that contains information. Either it'll have a message in it, or it'll have the actual web page. So if it's HTTP and you type www.google.com, Google will respond with the entire web page in HTML of what you requested, and that'll all be stored in a packet. Any questions on that? It's kind of pretty high level overview. Okay, anything?
I mean, I could go through the whole thing in the super nitty gritty.
I mean, yeah, we could.
Come back to that.
Yeah. All right, see, talking about networks, right? Like it's like boring to just talk about them. So let's like talk about how to interact with networks. So like we were talking about, like one thing that you can do is SSH into that network. So like that's one of our basic network commands that we can use in the command line. So if I wanted to SSH somewhere, I would need to provide SSH, and then I would need to provide an IP address or its like name. So like if it were Google, I could technically like do google.com, but I don't have the ability to SSH into google.com. So I'm just going to SSH into one of our machines. .1.1. Which should be that farthest machine that everybody signs into, I think. So at a base level, this is what SSH is, right? All you need is the command SSH and then an IP address.
Can I rotate it just?
Yeah. If everybody sees. If you want to back it up.
Yeah, I think we need to get an HDMI splitter.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Can everybody see that?
A little bit.
Is there any way they can turn off some of the lights?
Oh, yeah. Dim them. Or turn off all of them. I don't care.
That's a lot better. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. That's why we got LEDs. Okay. So, right, SSH, the command, and then the like thing that you want to SSH to. Just like CD, where you CD has the command, and then the place that you want to CD to. This will have you go as like the default user. I want to log in as myself, or as a specific user, I do my username and then an @ and then the IP address. Okay, it's 101. So I want to log in as myself to that computer, and hopefully it's actually up. So yeah. And I can see that I've now SSH, and it's like a little message. But if you see my like terminal prompt change, and now I'm CJ Rose at Blue Ridge 01 as opposed to CJ Rose at President, right? And so if I do the IF config like I did on ours, I can see that the IP address on here should be 192.168.1.101. So now I'm connected to that computer. And I can do anything on here that I want that I'm able to do, like for my given functionality, for my given privilege. I don't want to be in here anymore, so I'll do that. So, also, actually, that's a really good point. So say I'm actually in this system over here. If I want to get out of here, there are multiple ways to do it. One of them is exit, I believe. So you can type exit and then hit enter, and then it'll close the SSH connection. If you don't have the ability to type and you're like stuck somewhere and you don't have the ability to type exit or like type in a command, you can do Control and then D, and that will also send an exit command to the terminal, and it will close it out. Like if I also did Control D right now, it closes my terminal. Any questions on like the basic SSH or Control D?
So like, if you like sign this SSH and that address, if you just like you're signing into the default user, you just have to enter a password if you just totally access that.
Yeah. So actually it depends on the system, right? So for ours, you have to provide a password, and actually it's gonna send my username. I could log in as the default user also, which is Blue Ridge 01 at. And I still have to provide the password. But it depends on the system, right? So we were talking about the Etsy files, right? So in Etsy is a /sshd.config file that has all of like the options that you can run for SSH. And one of the options in there is to allow like just a default user to log in with no password. You can also allow root user, or you could disallow root user, and then you could allow root user with no login. So like sometimes when you're like traveling around the system or like going around a network to try to see like what's open, it's worthwhile to just like try to SSH into root, see if they like mess up the configuration files or something like that. And that's how we've gotten into the system in like one of our exercises last year, I think. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay. So the next network command that we're gonna do is called ping. And it's not like super flashy or anything, but it helps when you're trying to like test to see if something's up. So say like Google's been down for a while and I want to see if it's up, but I don't want to go into the browser and type www.google.com. I can do ping and then www.google.com. The fact that I've done it this many times disturbs me. And this will send what is called an ICMP packet, which is literally just a packet that says, hey, are you alive? And then it'll respond back like, yes, I am alive. And it'll say that like they fully delivered. But the way Linux does it is it does it forever. So if I type ping, it's just going to keep going. So what we want to do is provide an option to the ping command so that it doesn't do that forever, right? So something really cool in Linux is, I don't know how to do that. I could Google it, or I could use a built-in help page. So one of the built-in help pages is actually just doing tac-h for any command, and that gives me all these options that the ping command can be run with. So if I go through here, I can see a tac-c, which is, so hyphen, we call that attack. I don't know why, but we do. So that's a stop after the given count replies. So that's what I want. Another place to go for that is a man page. And man just stands for manual. So I can say man ping. So it's always going to be man and then the command that you want to look up. And it gives you a literal like page that is the documentation for that given command. So it tells me like all the information about ping, like what it does, and then I can see all the options. So what people may have seen yesterday Tuesday in the bash crawl exercise is commands with options. So we can provide an option to ping by doing tac-c like that, and then you provide the argument to the option. So the argument to the option for tac-c is any number, which is the amount of numbers of replies that you want it to stop after. So I normally do 4. And then I can say www.google.com. And you can see it's like saying, like it's sending 64 bytes, sending 64 bytes, sending 64 bytes, and it's sending it to this IP address. This is Google's IP address that's like local to us. And then at the end, it says 4 packets transmitted, 4 received, 0 packets lost. And so that's how you know if like a system is up and actually working, and you may just not have like access to it. Any questions about ping, options, or man pages? Okay.
Interesting factoid about ping was that the size of the data field wasn't specified strictly in the specification. So there used to be this vulnerability called the ping of death, where you can just send like 1 million bytes or something as the payload for ping and break the system.
Yeah, they actually used to. I mean, that pings are what is used for like a basic DOS attack, right?
Yeah, but you can fill that in pretty quick.
Yeah, so like if a network is poorly designed, you could just send like a bunch of pings from multiple computers and like DOS the network or the computer. Who does not know what a DOS is? It's okay if you don't. Yeah, so denial of service attack. So basically, you send it so much information, or you send it something that makes the system go down or the service go down. So
an example of that's the low orbit ion cannon, which you can download for free and then sit there watching Google absolutely laugh at you. That's not that I've ever done that.
do you think I can just look it up right now?
What, low orbit ion cannon?
Yeah, you think I can just look it
Yeah,
up?
probably. I don't. Does it come from Linux?
Oh, oops.
I downloaded it on Windows at home last night.
Let me see if I can just look it up.
Actually,
No.
The fun part is you can, like, basically, same way as you can mine Bitcoin, you're going to for mining Bitcoin. You can download the low orbit ion cannon and join, like, a crew. DDoS is Even though it is kind of useless nowadays.
Yeah,
They
this
filter out ISP.
this is what it looks like. It runs on Windows and says charging my laser, and you put in a URL or an IP, and you send like just ICMP
It's
packets.
a really nice GUI for just saying ping.
Yeah, it's kind of a joke now in the hacker community, but it's pretty funny. Okay, cool. Where am I? All right. Anybody else have any other questions?
What's the difference between the dash H for help and command?
So, attack H will only have as much help provided in it as like as the person is coded in. So, I think we can probably see it on ping. It may have, so it has all these options, right? But you can see it doesn't have like a description of it or like any other like details about it. And it says for more details, see ping. So attack H is never gonna have all the details that a man page will have. It's normally,
It's like the Spark Notes version, pretty much.
yeah, it's like the Spark Notes version. It's just a quick
It's
way
it's
to
a
see
usage
stuff.
message versus like a description of how the program functions. Like the man page is like documentation, but tag H is just like showing basic usage quickly.
Yeah.
Kind of another big command related to man pages. Like if you're gonna write something down today, I would write down apropos.
Oh yeah, it's like
When you
this.
don't know any commands from the terminal, apropos is your friend because you can type apropos and then just like a phrase or some keywords of I'm gonna do this or that. You hit enter and it'll show you a list of possible commands that will do what you're looking for, and then you can read command pages for that. So whenever you're like, I don't know how to do this, just use apropos and then like a keyword of like say you want to try to search for a file, you could do apropos and then search, and then it'll probably return you a file. It's like an example. It'll also show you syscalls and stuff, so it also kind of helps with C. Or yeah, a good example is like compressing files, like apropos compress and show you R, zip, and all the other.
Like I typed in apropos find file, but it's important. You remember we talked about like the quotes to make sure that it's together. So I have to put in apropos and then quotes find file, and then it gives me like different commands that can be run. So it's a really good point, and it's very useful starting out. I don't think Kate and I knew about it starting out, and it's probably been super helpful to us still. So, okay. Any other questions before we move? Yeah.
What are they called? The man page?
Yeah, man pages. It just stands for manual.
Okay. And how do you get to that?
Yeah, so you just man, and then a command that you want to look up.
Oh, okay, got it.
So like I could man ls, and I could see like all the options for ls, and there's like a lot.
Oh, okay, got it.
And then if you want to get out of a man page, you have to hit Q, and it quits it, and then takes you back to the terminal.
Oh, and then another big thing is inside of a man page, like say you know you're trying to use ls for example, but you don't know, like you want extra functionality, you can hit slash and then keyword, like typing a keyword. Slash is lets you search through a man page, so you can like, I don't know this tag L option, but it's tag A, so you just type / tag A, hit enter, and then just hit the end key to go next, and it'll show you all the places that dash A or tag A shows up.
If you want to go back, you can hit B. Also, I will put all of this into the review training doc. Did everybody see that from Tuesday? It's in the shared drive. Okay. I will make sure to put all of this in the training, in the review training doc. I know it's a lot of information. Okay. Any more questions? Yeah. All right. Cool. Cool. All right. I think the next thing was that. So okay, we're gonna like do a real hacky thing now, I guess.
Uninstall Python 3.9.
No, it's in map, but don't do what Kate said. That's bad. Okay, so say like I want to know like I say like, okay, so I guess it's kind of weird to say. So I have to explain something first, and I realized that I did not realize that I had to explain this, so that's my bad. Give me a second. Warroom infrastructure. Okay, so this is our network, and it may look confusing right now. Don't worry about it. But like we were talking about like services, right? So like DOSing a service. So I want to DOS like somebody's web server. So like I want to DOS Google's web server. Google has more than just a web server running, and each of those has like a designated computer that runs what they have. Okay, so just like you can run multiple like different operating systems on your computer with VMware, you can do the same thing on a server, and that's how we do it. So say I want to know information about our web box, right? About our Decatur.net service. There is a way to do that, okay? And it's already downloaded on Kali. If you don't have Kali, you will have to download it if you're using a different service. But I can find information out about the web server, and it's with a command called Nmap. So I can say Nmap, and then I can specify the IP address. And this is why it's really important to know IP addresses. I can specify the IP address of the service that I want to look up. Web is 192.168.1.45. Just like that. So this is the like IP address of our website. If I went to this IP address in the web browser, it would take me there. But I can Nmap. Huh?
I thought it was .50 at the end, sir. I just pinged the website. I was checking and it said.
Was it 50? No, it's .40.
Well,
Wait.
why would it say something that like?
Oh, wait. What'd you do?
I pinged the website.
You pinged www.decatur.net.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says 192.168.1.50.
Did you ping Decatur.net or www.decatur.net? Okay. Okay. There's a difference. Okay. That's an interesting side point. So what he's saying is he pinged, instead of www.decatur.net, he pinged Decatur.net. Okay. And as you can see, they have different IP addresses, right? So this is 192.168.1.50, and this is 192.168.1.40. Okay. Who can spot another difference in the ping data that's not Cade? Yeah.
On the second ping, there were 3 packages sent to the IP, and on the first one, there were 2.
Okay, that's a good point. It's just where I stopped it, though. Another difference. Yeah.
TTL 128.
TTL 128.
Instead of TTL 60.
No,
Time to live now.
that's oh no. It's a more blaring difference, I feel like, but I guess not.
No, it's pretty.
Okay, Cade.
Well, okay, so the
I was
difference.
also hovering over.
So when you say www.decatur.net, that's going to the web server that's hosting the website. When you just say Decatur.net, lots of networks, like anything beyond a home network, has what's called a domain. That's a way of like organizing users and permissions and computers. So when you just type Decatur.net, it goes to the domain controller that organizes and administers your network. So that's why you're getting a .50 is because it's a separate entity from the web server.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. That makes sense to everybody else? Any other questions on that?
Why did it switch from one to LDAP?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so DC1 is that domain controller. Okay. The LDAP is a service that runs on the DC that essentially provides authentication to the domain.
Okay.
So it has to reach out to the LDAP
Right.
to authenticate that like the ping's happening. But since it's ICMP packet, there is no authentication needed. Like anybody can ping it because I don't have like ping blocked on the internal network.
So if you kept running that, you just go to the pattern.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because it always is going to get forwarded to the LDAP
Yeah.
every single time. Anybody else? No? Okay. That was really good. Thanks for that. I didn't even plan that. That was good. He's planted in the audience. Okay, so we were talking about Nmap, right? So we can Nmap the web server, 192.168.1.40. So if I just run regular Nmap, it'll do stuff, and it's going to take a second. Actually, here, let me. Everybody can see a little bit better. So you can see like Nmap returns back information. So it's saying there's 996 ports that are closed on the service because there are 65,000.
655, well, 65, 530.
535?
It'd be 536 because it's a
No.
2 byte range.
Yeah, but it's 0 to 65. 535.
Yeah, it's 0 to 65535,
Yeah.
but I assume 0.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's a legit port.
There's 65,536 ports that can be used on any computer. Okay. 996 of like the well-known ports are closed on our network. The ports that are open are things that we are familiar with, besides the last one, right? So SSH is open on the web server because I can SSH into the web server right now. HTTP is open on the web server because it's web. I want to be able to access a website. 443 is open, which is HTTPS, because I want to be able to securely access the web server. The cool thing about Nmap is not only can I do just one box, not only one service, I can provide a range of IP addresses and get back information for all of them, or I could ask for more information using different options. Let's see. Okay, so this is like a normal Nmap command. Not everybody knows what all of these do. No one. I don't think anyone does. They're a mystery. I don't know. Kate, do you know what they do? TAC SV, that's versions. TACO is operating system.
Yeah,
TAC
SS is for a SYN scan.
Yeah.
So like how the Nmap works is essentially it goes through each port and it tries to establish a connection. So when you're working with TCP, which is one style of like how you interact with a remote service, it's like this three-way handshake where it's like, I'm going to tell you something, and then they say, okay, I'm ready, and then you say something. Like it goes back several times. So that's kind of slow. So the idea with a SYN scan is you just send that first message of, hey, and then you wait for the remote end to say something back, and then you just never like talk to that. You just move to the next one immediately. So that way you're not wasting time actually like trying to complete the entire connection. Because you only care if like something actually responds. You don't actually want to establish a full communication session.
Cool.
So that's probably why, like you see there, it says like you require root privilege.
Oh, I was just about to talk about that.
Okay.
I did it on purpose. So, yeah. What, like Kate was saying, you request a scan type which requires, oh god damn it, which requires root privilege. So we talked about so Windows 10 has what is called administrator mode. So you could run apps as an administrator, which gives you escalated privilege. Like you can do more things as an administrator. Just like that, Linux has what is called a root user, who has access to do things at an escalated privilege level. So they have the ability to run commands that a regular user cannot. It's for security reasons. The way you can get around that, or like not really get around it, but run things as the root user, is using the command sudo, which just essentially means run as root. Okay. And then you have to type in your password, and it has to make sure that you're a root user, and then it's gonna load, or you're not gonna type in your password right. Yeah. All right, and then it's gonna Nmap. It's gonna take a second. Wow.
So the reason why he has to run that as sudo is because that syn scan, where you only start the connection and don't fall all the way through, requires special access to the operating system.
I may have to cancel this syn scan. This syn scan's taking too long. Oh no, okay, there we go. See it. So, okay. So the last one, we can look at it. This was unknown, right? And then that was all the information that was given. But now that we've added these extra options, it says, hey, do a little bit more. Like, ask for a little bit more information. See what else you can find. This has two effects. We get back that information, but also on their end, they can see that we are doing, like, we're being more active about our scanning because they can see that traffic. So it's dangerous to do it.
May I ask what the difference between a filtered port and a closed port are?
Yeah. So a filtered port is a port that is open but has like limitations on the traffic that it accepts. So it may have like a user password on it, or it may like only be accepting one-way traffic. So it may not be accepting inbound, but it could be accepting outbound. Like it could send outbound, but it's not accepting inbound. It's just a filter port you're probably never going to get into because it's hard. You're not going to get around their filtering. It's like the router itself is filtering packets out.
Thank you.
So we're talking about like TAC SV. That gives like the version numbers of everything, so we can see like the different versions of the software that's actually running. And then the unknown has been revealed, and it's this. You shouldn't care about what this is right now. It doesn't matter. And then on top of that, we did the TAC O, which asks like, can we get the operating system? And we can see that it's running some version of Linux. And if we know like the operating system, then we may know that like, hey, there's an exploit for SSH on this version of SSH for this kind of operating system. And so that's helpful for attacks.
Same thing with the service version numbers.
Yep.
This is like the first stage when you're doing recon on a potential target.
All right. Any questions before we do something that's actually fun and not Kate and I talking?
What was NC?
Yeah, okay. I guess we can talk about that. Yeah. So somebody asked what Netcat was. And I don't know if you need to use this in Band or not. So NC, actually, you know what? How would I figure out what NC is? Cool, sick. So NC is described as the TCP/IP Swiss Army knife. NC stands for Netcat. It is a simple Unix utility which reads and writes data across network connections using TCP or UDP protocol. Right now, don't worry about what TCP and UDP is. We'll explain it like later next week. Essentially, what Netcat allows you to do is connect to services over anything. You don't have to specify a port, which means you don't have a specific protocol that you're accessing it with, right? So Netcat isn't SSH. It isn't an HTTP connection. It isn't HTTPS connection. It is no connection. It's just sending data and receiving data. So like a cool little like example of how Netcat works is to like Netcat yourself. So Netcat can also listen. So we can say Netcat TAC L, which means listen, and we want to provide a port to listen on. We'll do 42069. And you can see it's like waiting. To Netcat to something, we have to do Netcat, and then we have to provide the IP address of where we want to connect to, and then the port number. Brownie points for anybody that knows what IP address I should connect to. What do you think?
I was gonna say the website IP address.
No, because we're trying to do it on the local machine. Trying to connect to myself. Localhost. Sick. Yeah, so we'll connect to localhost, which just means, hey, specify my IP address here instead. And we'll do 420.69. Oh, connection refused. What? Am I filtering my own netcats? Yeah, I know. I think I'm filtering myself.
You have that server ready?
Yeah, I think I'm filtering myself.
Trust never not even yourself.
In LVP. It's just no one, not even you. Actually, I might have to do. Dude, anytime we try to do it, like, not that.
knows that he's 426.9 is a callback for it, so block it.
He does. Like, it's the quad, dude. It just does not like 42069. I don't know why. Oh, so annoying.
Because I sent you all those PDFs of macros.
Okay. So, am I blocking high ports on the network? That's a question for later. Anyways, so I have connected to myself on port 444. We call it quad fours. And if I type over here, hello, Cade, it'll pop up over there. And then I could type over here and say, I hate you, Christian, which is how Cade and I's conversations normally go. It pops up over there. And so, like, it's kind of like a dumb example because it's like on your own system, but like you could theoretically connect to like any computer like that, or you could like you could get information from any computer.
So when you're sitting in those labs, you can exchange IP addresses over like Google Chat and then start netcatting to each other in the labs.
Yes.
Netcat and I did that operating system the other day.
Instead of using Google Chat to talk to one another, you can use Netcat.
Yeah, you just need to do that key exchange. Yeah.
What is the dash 10
Yeah, it does more options. We'll look at
He is for both.
it. Yeah, it is.
Specifies port. And
It does numeric IP addresses only. Or no, I'm sorry, it does
no DNS.
yeah, no DNS. I need water. I don't have my water. Where's my water? Hold on. Un momento. Okay. Yeah, so like what Kate said. I'm dying. Okay. All right. Any other questions on anything else? Don't worry about the package manager stuff. We'll cover that next week. I just want to get you guys started on Bandit.
So you always have to you have to set the port that you get through.
You always have to send. Yeah, you always have to have the port, or else it won't know like where to send the information to.
You can just make one up.
Yeah, you can make one up. So
So you have to whatever.
I'm gonna Wikipedia it. Anytime I don't know anything, I Wikipedia it. But ports.
What specifically? I mean, like,
Well, no.
so you have a process of like a program running on a computer, and what happens is it opens up a port. So an IP address specifies this computer, like processor, like your desktop. The port says what program on that computer you specifically want to talk to. So you have to specify the port when you're connecting. Otherwise, you'll get to the physical computer, and then it's like, I got 10 different programs running here, and I don't know where to send this information to logically. So that's why you have to specify the port, because there is no good idea of what a default port should be for, if you're trying to connect to an arbitrary program process.
But if you're setting up a listener, you can't just choose any random port. So it can't just be like, hey, I want a Netcat listener on 22, because it's used already, right? So there's the idea of well-known ports, which are all ports from 0 to 1024. You cannot, you're not supposed to use any of these. So 1 to 1023 or 0 to 1023 are all well-known ports. That means they already have a service that's used regularly that's running on it. Anything else is basically free game, but registered ports are ports that have like random ass random ass software that runs on it. So like I think like you can look up like Minecraft. Yeah, I was literally about to say Minecraft.
Don't run your Minecraft server on port 53 or port 80, because then people will get really confused.
So the default Minecraft server for the Bedrock edition is 19,132, and that's one of the registered ports. But you could like set your Netcat up on that port. So anything past 1024, you can set it up. Anything. But like the normal one to use is like quad 4s. Anybody else? No.
Going along with those well-known ports below, like 1023 and below, if you want to set up a web server, you do it on port 80, because web browsers and the common convention is assume you're looking for an HTTP server on port 80. So if you set your web server up on port 81, you're not going to get a lot of traffic, because everyone's going to get it, 404 not found when they try to connect to your IP address at port 80. Like your whole web server program is running on port 81, so all the traffic is not.
Cool. All right. Is everybody ready to move on to the activity? Yeah. Okay. So this is gonna be like something that we do for a while, actually, for and you can work on this over the weekend too if you would like. It's just if you're on the internet, you won't be able to access this because they block high port numbers and all of these SSH to high port numbers. So your options are to hotspot or to use your Warroom Wi-Fi. Cute. But we're gonna give you the rest of the day to work on this, and then a day next week as well. And the CTFD that we showed, I would save the passwords that you get from each level, because you can put those passwords into the CTFD challenges and get points. And like the better people do in the CTFD, like the more they get recognized and stuff, and like possibility to go on MOs and whatnot. That's like the most fair way that we've determined to come up with, like, to send people for stuff. So it's important to do the CTFD problems. So save the passwords for these until we get everybody domain accounts. So to get here, we're gonna just like Google bandit over the wire. Don't. Okay, yeah. I'll increase this. And then you're just gonna, it should be overthewire.org, and you're just gonna go to bandit over the wire. And it talks about stuff. You can read that later. It's not really that important. But you're gonna go to level 0 to level 1, okay? And this is where SSH becomes really important. Or wait, is it? No, you're gonna go to level 0, and this is where SSH becomes really important. All right, so this is what we talked about. So, bandit over the wire says the goal of this level is for you to log into the game using SSH. The host to which you need to connect is bandit.labs.overthewire.org on port 2220. The username is bandit0 and the password is bandit0. Once logged in, go to level 1 page to find out how to beat level 1. So, who knows how to SSH into this game? Yeah, hit me.
You want to go to level 0 to get the password for level 1, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be SSH space bandit0 at bandit.labs.overthewire.org /port-2220.
We can, so explain what the TACP is.
The TACP, is that just specifying a port? Like the port that the website wants to use?
Yeah. So like we said, SSH, you can specify different ports for it to run on. So TACP specifies the port. And then we hit enter, and it asks for the username, or for the password, and it says the password is bandit0. If I can type, I think I hit a 9. Nope, okay, cool. If you don't want all that stuff on your screen, you can type clear and hit enter it, and then it'll clear your screen for you. You can always scroll back up if you ever want to see it, I guess, I don't know. Anybody have any questions on that before we demo the next level? And then I'm going to set you free, like frolicking buffalo. No? Okay. So it says to go to level 1 page to find out how to beat level 1. So we're gonna go to Bandit 0 to level 1. It says the password for the next level is stored in a file called README located in the home directory. Use this password to log into Bandit 1 using SSH. Whenever you find a password for a level, use SSH on port 2220 to log into that level and continue the game. So, who knows what directory you're in right now? Tilde, yeah. And what is the tilde directory? No, the slash is the top level. Tilde is, our home. So we are in the home directory. Another way to find your directory is the command pwd, which means print working directory. And you see it says /home/bandit0, and this just configures to tilde. Like that's what it translates to. Okay, so it says it's in a file called README located in the home directory. How do I list files in this directory? ls. Okay, so we see a file called README. How am I going to open the file? Cat README. And we see this. Okay, so this is how literally all the passwords look. It's really gross. I don't know why they did it this way. I hate it. But yeah. So that's the password. So the way this works is we can't like SSH from box to box. We need to like back out and then SSH again from our system to the next level. So who remembers how we can leave this SSH? Exit or Control D. Exit or Control D. I prefer Control D. So we Control D. Okay. So it says use this password to log into Bandit 1 using SSH. So, not you. What's your name again? Huh? Gabe. Not Gabe. Who can tell me how to SSH into Bandit 1? I believe in you. Whoever the brave soul is.
Same as before, except switch. Bandit 0 and Bandit 1.
Oh, or what do you mean? That's a P. And then so you can copy this and then paste it.
Middle mouse, man.
Dude, I mean, yeah, but like,
Middle mouse.
I'm not trying to confuse people. And now we are in level 1. And I will no longer help after this point. No, I'm just kidding. Now, okay, so everybody can go off and do it on their own now. Raise your hand if you need help. Cade and I will be walking around. Sam will also be walking around. So that's 3 people to help you. If you don't like the way, Jack will also walk around. That's 4 people that will be walking around if you don't like the way Cade and I look.
I mean, I don't
Are we supposed to be using Kali for this?
Yeah.
Did you guys set up passwords and stuff like
It says
that?
like, oh, it's in the
So I wasn't here at the last one.
It should just be Cali. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Hands. People have hands.